So how bad is one cigarette a day? Now, this is a really interesting question because I get asked a lot about, oh, oh, I'm a light smoker. How much of a danger is this? Or, I'm a social smoker. It doesn't really matter, does it? As though people want reassurance that they're going to be okay with smoking occasionally. I want to reassure you that you absolutely will not be okay, statistically, if you smoke a small amount. And just to be really clear, statistically, you will also not be okay if you smoke a huge amount or a moderate amount of cigarettes. Okay, so let's dive into this because this is really important. It's really important because for this very reason, a lot of people consider that if they're smoking one a day or a small amount, that it's got to be better for them. So let's dive into this. Let's look at what the research actually says on this. And there's some really, really clear research that was carried out where the researchers looked at 141 cohort studies in 55 study reports. Okay. And in fact, the paper that was published in the BMJ, the British Medical Journal, back in 2018, looked at low cigarette consumption and risk of coronary heart disease and stroke. Meta-analysis of 141 cohort studies in 55 study reports. And here's what they said. Smoking one cigarette per day carries around 40 to 50% of the excess risk. That's 40 and 50, i.e. half. Smoking one cigarette a day carries around 40 to 50% of the excess risk for developing coronary heart disease and stroke of smoking 20 cigarettes a day. And smoking 5 cigarettes per day has around 55 to 65% of the excess risk, particularly when focused on studies that reported relative risks adjusted for multiple confounders. In other words, all things being equal, relative to non-smokers and smokers, they can see where people who are smoking one cigarette a day fit in. And they're going to have up to 50% of the excess risk for developing coronary heart disease and stroke that somebody smoking 20 cigarettes per day would have. That's just astounding. It's astonishing to think about that. You might think that somebody who smokes 20 a day is going to have this amount of risk, and if I smoke, it's going to be this little bit here. It's going to be 1/20th, all right, 0.05. But actually, it's this much, all right? Now, of course, there are some smokers who have twisted logic who just say, well, in which case I might as well just smoke more. Why not? I get most of the risk from one, so I might as well just have a few more. And of course, if that is the way that that person is thinking, then they're absolutely at liberty to do that, and they're very welcome to do that. And that's what we have: free choice and free will. But you have to accept the consequences of that. And those of us who've made the decision to quit and to stop smoking have really appreciated the peace of mind, the comfort, the serenity, the happiness, the joy, the freedom, the energy that comes when you make a decision to quit. Because this is really, really astonishing. I mean, think about it. A light smoker is often thought of, and just, if a heavy smoker is sort of somebody who smokes, more than a pack a day, maybe more than 25 a day, okay? And a light smoker is considered somebody who smokes around about 5 cigarettes a day. That person who's smoking, who's considered a light smoker, or sometimes they call themselves a social smoker, can have up to 65% of the excess risk for developing heart disease and stroke as somebody who's a heavy smoker. It's quite astonishing that the data is this clear. It's a well-researched study published in a reputable journal. It's looked at a huge amount of data across different types of studies, and it's really, really clear now. So when we think about this question of how bad is one cigarette a day, I mean, you have to ask yourself, because look, bad and good are vague terms, all right? So let's just define it in this way. If we're looking at the correlation between cigarette consumption and cardiovascular disease, right? Do you think it is, another way to phrase this question is, do you think it is bad to have 50% of the excess risk for developing coronary heart disease and stroke by having that one cigarette a day? I mean, is that a risk worth taking for you? All right. And that I think is a clearer way of looking at it, because then you have something very clear that you can look at in that light. And that really may be a surprise to people who are light smokers or social smokers. All right. That if that's the risk of, we're not even looking at things like cancer and all these other things here now, and COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and emphysema. We're not even looking at considering those things. We're just looking at these one kind of set of metrics around heart disease and stroke, and it's not this small amount. Having 1/20th of what somebody smoking a pack a day has, it's not giving you 1/20th of the risk. It's giving you 50% of the risk, of the extra risk, of the excess risk. That is how bad smoking is for you. All right. So when they looked at this, there were a number of other things as well. Okay. And it's just important that you understand this, because if you understand what this is, then you can answer this question, this idea of what is bad and what that bad means can really come into light and give you a real clear thing. Okay, some people will be looking at this from a point of view of trying to justify why they smoke, and justify it in their minds to give themselves peace of mind. And I really hope that this does not give you peace of mind that it's okay to continue. I hope it gives you peace of mind to know that it's important to stop that and break that habit. Okay. And you want to if you're struggling for that, if you're struggling to do that, then get some help. It's the quickest and most straightforward way. All right. I've worked with people who are smoking 5 a day, 1 a day, and people who smoke just occasionally, and people who smoke 20, 30, 40 a day. All right. It doesn't matter how much you smoke. There is a risk there. It's an increased risk. And the payoff to you, the benefit of quitting, is always the same. And so understanding, and there are a group of other people as well who are really interested to know, what is this doing to me? I'm engaging in this habit. Is it okay, or are there any increased risks? Please realize that absolutely huge increased risks, from 1 cigarette a day, from 5 cigarettes a day. Okay. And we know from people who are smoking, for instance, 5 cigarettes a day, that the men are 1.6 times more likely to have an increased risk of mortality, increased risk of death relative to non-smokers. And we know that women, young women who are just smoking a few a day, are having increased risk of cervical cancer and fertility problems. So for all these reasons, whether it's 1 cigarette a day or whether it's more, yes, it's bad. Yes, you want to stop. Yes, you want to find your personal reason to quit, so that something visceral inside you says, right, enough is enough. And then go and find the route that you want to use to do that. Personally, I like to go and I like working with somebody who works with the unconscious mind. That's what I do when I want to make changes. So that you can find somebody who can help you in one session to change and transform, somebody who's had that kind of experience, because then we can work with the unconscious, we can change that. It can be integrated into your life nice and quickly. You don't have to wait months or years or struggle through the process. Okay, so just appreciate and just understand the core message of the data that's coming out now is that the risk is going to be, even if you're smoking 1 a day, you're still having half the increased risk, the excess risk of somebody who's smoking 20 a day.